Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to Papagei English, and this is our 8th course. In this session, we're going to talk about matching questions. Now, before starting the course, again, I would appreciate if you subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and if you like this video, please like it and leave your comments. All of them will help me to improve quality of my work. Now, let's start our today's session. Matching questions. In this type of task, you are given a list of options or features, for example, the names of the people, or publications, or years, and you need to match them with the questions. To do this, you need to search the text to establish which part of the text correctly corresponds with the statements given in the questions. In this task type, the questions will not appear in the same order. It's really important, and the answers are given in the text. Okay, now let's go to our steps. The first step is to look at the title. Again, in order to have a general idea of the passage, we will start answering questions by just looking at our title. And then we're going to select our keywords and signals in order to find the relevant part of the text. And finally, skim or scan and find the relevant part of the text and answer our questions carefully. Now, let's start our today's example. Now, let me turn on my pen as well. And as you see, this is a reading passage 3 and reducing the effects of climate change. Our passage is about climate change, and we talked about this passage in our previous sessions. And in this session, we're going to answer some matching feature questions for this passage. Okay, now let's go to our questions. Okay. Let's read our instructions. Question 37 to 40. Look at the following statements. Question 37 to 40 and the list of scientists below. Match each statement with the correct scientist A to D. Write the correct letter A to D in boxes 37 to 40 on your answer sheet. The first thing we're going to do is to select our keywords for questions 34 to 40. Okay. The effects of geoengineering may not be long-lasting. Okay. It's something about long-lasting related to geoengineering. Geoengineering is a topic worth exploring. Okay, it's worth exploring. It may be necessary to limit the effectiveness of geoengineering projects. Limit the effectiveness of geoengineering projects. Research into non-fossil based fuels cannot be replaced by geoengineering. Okay, we selected our signals, and then we're going to look at the names of the scientists. Please be careful that we might find the name of a scientist, for example, Roger Argyle, in 3 or even maybe in 4 different places in the text. Okay, it depends on the text, and maybe we find it in just 2 places or 1 place, but we need to read around all of them carefully in order to answer the questions correctly. And because these are our last 4 questions of this test, I'm going to start answering these questions from the last paragraph. At our final sessions, I will talk about different sets of questions and which one to choose to answer first and how to manage our time. So don't worry about that. In this session, just focus about the matching questions, because it's very important first to be familiar with the different type of questions in the IELTS reading test. Now let's just start. The first thing I'm going to do to scan the last paragraph in order to search for the names of the scientists. Okay. Okay, I found Dr. Martin Sommerkorn. And I'm going to read around these scientists carefully. And again, we have in the box Martin Sommerkamp. And be careful that sometimes you might find names of other scientists which do not exist in our box. That's also an important point to be careful. Okay, now let's read around Dr. Martin carefully. According to Dr. Martin, a climate change advisor for the World Wildlife Fund's International Arctic Program, human-induced climate change has brought humanity to a position where we shouldn't exclude thinking truly about this topic and its possibilities. Okay, shouldn't exclude thinking truly about this topic. That's very important. Now let's go back to our options. Non-fossil based fuels, no. This is completely irrelevant. It has nothing to do with non-fossil based fuels. It may be necessary to limit the effectiveness of geoengineering project. No, it has nothing to do with limiting the effectiveness of a geoengineering project. This word exclude may be a little bit confusing for you, but be careful that we shouldn't exclude thinking truly about something. And the question 38, geoengineering is a topic worth exploring. Okay, I'm a little suspicious about that one. Now let me read the sentence again carefully. We shouldn't exclude thinking truly about this topic and possibilities. And that's great. That's our answer. D is Dr. Martin Somerka. Now let's go to our next paragraph. Paragraph G. Okay, says Dr. Dan Lund from the University of Bristol's School of Geophysical Sciences, who has studied the likely impacts of sunshade and aerosol schemes on the climate. You may bring global temperatures back to pre-industrial levels, but the risk is that the poles will still be warmer than they should be, and the tropics will be cooler than before industrialization. To avoid such a scenario, Lund says Angel's project would have to operate at half strength. Okay, Angel's project would have to operate at half strength. And be careful that it's not Angel's viewpoint. Okay, it's Dr. Lund viewpoint, and he mentions Angel's in his opinion. Okay. To operate at half strength, all of which reinforces his view that the best option is to avoid the need for geoengineering altogether. Okay, to operate at half strength is our key to answer this question. Now let's go back to our questions. It may be necessary to limit the effectiveness of geoengineering a project. Okay, that's our answer. And again, it has nothing to do with non-fossil based fuels, and the effects of geoengineering may not be long-lasting. Okay. Now let's go back to our paragraphs, and paragraph F, U.S. National Center of Mystery. Now let's just skim and find the names of the scientists. Okay. Rush, we have Rush, and I need to read this sentence carefully. Geoengineer plans to inject stratospheric aerosols or seed clouds would act to cool the planet and act to increase the extent of sea ice, says Rush, but all the models suggest some impact on the distribution of precipitation. Okay, it has nothing to do with long-lasting or effects of geoengineering or also non-fossil based fuels. Now, let's continue and go to paragraph E. But will such schemes ever be implemented? Now let's look for the names of the scientists. Okay, I found Angle says that his plan is no substitute for developing renewable energy, the only permanent solution. Renewable energy is our key for answer. Renewable energy could be paraphrased with non-fossil based fuels that could not be replaced by geoengineering. And as you see, we have here permanent solution. So this is Angle's viewpoint. Okay. And I'm going to select A for this question. And we answered 3 of our questions, and it is not necessary to look for the other one, and automatically the answer for question 37 is B, Phil Rush. The effects of geoengineering may not be long lasting. Okay, but I'm gonna check this. I'm gonna check this out for you as well. Now let's look for Phil Rush. And Dr. Phil Rush of US-based Pacific Northwest National Laboratory is equally guarded about the role of geoengineering. I think all of us agree that if we were to end geoengineering on a given day, okay, then the planet would return to its pre-engineered condition very rapidly. Okay, it means that it's not long-lasting. Okay, then the planet would return to its pre-engineered condition very rapidly, it means that it's not very long lasting. Okay. As you see, we answered these imagined questions. These were just the names of some scientists, and the first thing we did, we just looked at the topic, and then we selected our keywords, and then we find the names of the people, because it's easy to find. But be careful that you are more likely to find the names of these people in different places, and even the names of the other scientists. But you need to around them carefully in order to find your keywords and answer your questions. Okay, now let's go to our next example. This is from reading passage 1, and raising Mary Rose is our topic. Okay, but I don't know what the Mary Rose is. In this case, just read some first sentences of the paragraph. How a 16th century warship was recovered from the seabed. It was a warship and fleet. Okay, that's enough for me. Now let's go to our questions. Now let's read our questions carefully. Questions 5 to 8. Look at the following statements and list of dates below. This time we have dates, and we should match these dates with the corresponding sentences. Okay, now let's start and read these questions and select our keywords. A search for the Mary Rose was launched. Okay, a search for the Mary Rose was launched. One person's exploration of the Mary Rose site is stopped. One person's exploration is stopped. It was agreed that the hull of the Mary Rose should be raised. But wait, it was agreed that the site of the Mary Rose was found by chance. Okay, we have some dates here in the box. 1836, 1840, 1965, 1967, 1971, 1979, 1982. And as you see, these dates are in order, and it's wise to look for them from 1836 to 1982 and answer our questions. Now, let's look for 1836. Okay. This is our first paragraph, and as you see, in our first graph we have one number, and we have, this is also a number, but we don't have anything about that. Now let's go to our next paragraph. Okay, and okay, 1836. Then on 16 June 1836, some fishermen in the Solent found that their equipment was cut on an underwater obstruction, which turned out to be the Mary Rose. Okay, some fishermen. Now, let's go back to our questions. One person's exploration of the Mary Rose site is stopped. No, it has nothing to do with one person's exploration. The site of Mary Rose was found by chance. Okay, this chance is our key to answer, and the answer for question 8 is E. A. Okay. Now let's go back. As you see, the fishermen in the Solent found that their equipment was caught on an underwater obstruction, and that was by chance, which turned out to be the Mary Rose. Okay, now let's go back to the passage, and our second date is 1840, and look for the 1840 in the passage. Okay, this is 1840. Now let's read around 1840 carefully. But I'm gonna start reading from this sentence, because I want to have a comprehensive understanding of this paragraph. Diver John Dean happened to be exploring another sunken ship nearby, and the fishermen approached him, asking him to free their gear. Dean dived down and found the equipment cut on a timber, protruding slightly from the seabed. Exploring further, he uncovered several other timbers and a bronze gun. Dean contributed diving on the site intermittently until 1840, recovering several more guns, 2 bows, various timbers, part of a pump, and various other small kits. Intermittently is important, and until 1840. Now, as you see, Dean started exploring the sea, and he finished it in 1840, and this is a person. Okay, now one person's exploration of the Mary Rose site was stopped. This is B. We answered this question as well. Because this is a passage 1 and the questions are not very challenging compared with our previous example, which was a passage from reading passage 3, and the passage 3 is the most difficult passage in IELTS reading section. Okay, now let's look for 1965. And this is 1965. The Manuals then faded into obscurity for another 100 years, but in 1965, military historian and amateur diver Alexander Mackie, in conjunction with the British Sub-Aqua Club, initiated a project called Silent Ships. Okay, they initiated a project called Silent Ships. The search for the Marios was launched. Okay, initiated could be paraphrased with search was launched. So this is C. Now let's go to the next date, 1967. Oh, okay. Now let me find 1967. In 1967, Edgerton's side-scan sonar system revealed a large, unusually shaped object, which Mackie believed was the Mary Rose. Okay, now let's go back to our questions. It was agreed that the hull of the Mary Rose should be raised. No, and it says nothing to do with that. Now let's go for 1971. Further excavations revealed stray pieces of timber and an iron gun. But the climax to the operation came when, on 5 May 1971, part of the ship's frame was uncovered. Okay, and again in 1971 we have nothing about agreement on the hull of the Marios. Okay, now this is also incorrect. Now let's go for 1979. Mackie and his team now knew for certain that they had found the wreck, but were as yet unaware that it also housed a treasure trove of beautifully preserved artifacts. Okay, interest in the project grew, and in 1979 the Marios Trust was formed. Okay, in 1979 the Marios Trust was formed, and we eliminate this option as well. And as a result, G is our answer, but I'm gonna check G in our previous slide as well. Okay, now let's continue. With Prince Charles as its president and Dr. Margaret Jewell its archaeological director, the decision whether or not to salvage the wreck was not an easy one. Also, an excavation in 1978 had shown that it might be possible to raise the hull, while the original aim was to raise the hull if at all feasible. The operation was not given the go-ahead until January 1982. In January 1982, the operation was given a go-ahead, and 1982 is our answer. 1982 is our answer, and we had another date from in this. We have 1979, 1978. Okay, these are a little bit confusing, but you should be careful when you see different dates in order to don't confuse them and find the correct answer. Okay, we answered all of our questions. As you see, finding the dates again is very similar to the finding the names of the scientists in the passage. We scan for finding both dates and the names of the people, and we also read and select some keywords, and then based on the relevant part of the text and our keywords, we answer our questions. Okay, now let me turn off my pen as well. I hope this session would be useful for you. This is the end of the first part of our session 8. In the second part, we're going to continue talking about the matching questions. If you like this video, please like it, and if you have any questions, you can ask your questions in the comment sections. See you later. Goodbye.